And our girls are being very brave tonight, and they insisted that they wanted to stand with us, so they're braver than we are. So we'll see. Okay. All right, here we go. So before we begin, we just want to gently acknowledge, we know that Mother's Day can be a really beautiful day for many people, but it can also be a really tender, difficult day for others. So we're mindful that today may bring up a lot of different emotions as well. We also just want to gently mention that part of our story includes miscarriage, loss, and some painful seasons. So we'll share a little bit of that as part of our journey, so we just wanted to give a heads up before we begin. But it's not all about heaviness today. It's also about encouragement and God's faithfulness with everything that we've walked through. So it does end joyfully. So so Micah just kind of asked us to share a little bit about our journey through parenthood and adoption today. And then, so for those that don't know us, we're Ben and Jeanette. I'll get Ben to share kind of a little bit here.
So we'll share a little bit about us, and then we'll get into our story. We met when we were 16-year-olds at Wendy's. I was the grill cook, flipping burgers, and Jeanette worked drive-thru. And somehow God used a fast food restaurant to begin our story. Even back then, God was already working, directing both of our lives. I already loved Jesus, and Jeanette was introduced to Jesus as I shared about God. He totally changed her heart and worked in her life, just like God did for me. As Christians together, we love Jesus and we love each other. At 18 and 19, we got married. Everyone thought we were crazy, and looking back, what could have felt reckless to some people began one of the greatest gifts of our lives. 18 years later, we can honestly say that we still genuinely love being married to each other and really enjoy being together. It's like a sleepover with your best friend. Every single day, it's the absolute best. Getting married young, we had plans for our future. Of course, high on the list, we wanted to honor God with our lives. But there's still all the other little details, such as going to university, job, buying a house, strong marriage, and eventually having kids. We always knew we wanted a big family, biological children, and one day fostering or adoption. We had timelines, we had expectations, and a picture in our minds of how life would go. But one thing we learned is this: in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Proverbs 16:9. God is faithful, but his faithfulness does not always look like the plans we originally made.
When we finally became pregnant with Olivia, we thought we were stepping into the life we had imagined. But nothing prepared me for what it felt like to hold her for the first time. The moment I held Olivia, I remember this overwhelming peace and love, and like I'd known her forever. There is something profoundly holy about parenting. One of our favorite authors, Paul Tripp, says that parenting is one of God's greatest tools of transformation in our lives, and we have found that to be so true. Parenting stretches you, it humbles you, it exposes your heart, it teaches sacrifice, and constantly reminds you how deeply dependent you are on God. Children are not interruptions to life, they are part of God's purpose for life. And Olivia has always been one of the clearest reminders of God's goodness in our lives. But after Olivia, our story slowly became a path we never expected to walk down. The joy we felt when we got pregnant again with baby Jack ended the day before we were going to announce to everyone at 12 weeks. It was a road nothing can prepare you for. It felt like a nightmare. There are no words to describe what it feels like to lose your baby. Miscarriage is loving your baby deeply and already imagining a whole life with them before you've ever held them. And then in an instant, everything you were hoping for is gone, and you're left carrying both love and loss at the same time. It's the heartbreak of meeting your child in your heart and then having to grieve them in real life. And after we lost Jack, it happened 2 more times. When we lost our third baby, Lily, we had even made it past the first trimester, seen her heartbeat, watched her move, and she was perfect. We had started imagining her life. And then I remember laying on the ultrasound table, and I'd seen Lily lots of different ultrasounds, and unfortunately this time the room went silent. No reassurance, no smile, and the words from the tech were, "I'm sorry, she's passed." There's no heartbeat. I remember walking to the car completely shattered, and for the first time in my life, I was genuinely angry with God. I actually screamed, I hit the steering wheel over and over again. I cried, and I asked why. Why would you allow this, and why couldn't you save her? How does this bring you glory? And I was completely lost. And through that experience, I learned something deeply important. Faith is not pretending that you're okay. Sometimes faith is bringing your confusion honestly before God and clinging to him. We lost 3 babies, Jack, Aspen, and Lily. Life keeps moving around you while your own world feels shattered. But Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted," and he truly was. And even though I felt shame and guilt for yelling at God, he met me only with grace and love. A couple weeks later, after losing Lily, I was really struggling, and I told Ben I needed a break and I needed a walk. I went on a trail I'd been down many, many times before. I was crying and I was praying. And in that moment, I experienced God speaking to me, not audibly like a voice, but unmistakably clear in spirit. I've only had a few moments like this in a few times in my life. I knew that this was one of them, and I felt him say, "Look." I looked up toward the water, and there were hundreds and hundreds of ducks on the pond. That might sound small, but it wasn't normal for this place. There was usually maybe 5 ducks on a good day, but the pond was full of life. And in that moment, I felt him bring to my mind Matthew 6:26. I won't read the whole verse because I want to save time, but in summary, it says that he cares for the birds of the air and that they don't sow or reap or store away, and yet he feeds them. And then the question, are you not of more value than they? And in my grief, God was gently reminding me, you are seen, you are not forgotten. I am still here, and trust the plans I have for you.
Our season of grief lasted a few years. One thing grief taught us is that every family is given a different field. Some fields look fruitful quickly, others fear barren for a long time. Some walk through infertility, some miscarriage, some adoption, some waiting, and some heartbreaks. And the temptation is always comparison. Why does their field seem easier than ours? But God never promises identical stories. He promises his presence. Isaiah 43:2 says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you." It's not if, but it's when. And slowly God began teaching us to trust him with the field he gave us. After losing Lily, we received cryogenic results and learned that she would never have lived past 2 weeks old if she had made it to the full term. It gave us some answers, but still left many questions. We were then asked a difficult question. How many losses are you willing to walk through for another child? And we realized we couldn't keep walking through that kind of grief and loss again and again. So we prayed, and we felt God gently leading us towards adoption. There was peace in that decision. We went through MCFD, completed our training, home studies, and assigned a social worker. And after all that time and effort, nothing happened. 3 years passed, no matches. And our field felt empty again. Adoption is incredibly difficult, and there are not too many kids like many might assume. The system is overloaded with children in foster care and not enough social workers to permanently plan. Most kids sit in care for a long time and stay in foster care. Some do return to families, which is exactly where they should be, but some unfortunately stay in care and don't get permanently planned. Eventually, after 3 years, we were matched with a little boy, and from the start, nothing went smoothly. And there were signs that things were not safe for him in the foster home. Things were disclosed by the little boy to us and from the other little boy in the home, and we realized these boys needed advocacy. And this wasn't about adoption. This was about safety. We wanted to protect him, fight for him, bring him home. A little boy was truly failed by a system that should have protected him and left us all heartbroken. And ultimately, the little boy was removed from a foster home and placed in a home with no other children to hopefully heal and stabilize. And we were devastated. We asked God again, why? What's the purpose? Sometimes obedience is painful, but never wasted. We realized it was less about us and what we wanted and more about getting 2 little boys out of a horrific home. It was bigger than us, but at the time we felt so devastated. It was a reminder of how kids are living every day in a broken system and what happens when the system is bursting at the seams.
After our failed adoption and match, we took some time to heal. After more waiting and no matches again, we honestly tried to take back control. Maybe we were meant to have another baby. Maybe this adoption thing wasn't God's plan for us. We started to doubt what God was calling us to. So we met with the fertility specialist again and got more tests and procedures done over the course of a couple months. We finally got our fertility results, and they were not very promising, and there was no peace. And not even joking, on the exact same day after our appointment, an hour after we got those results and were processing what we had been told, we got a call from our social worker. And we never hear from our social worker. We had been matched with a little girl, literally the exact same day. And everything we heard about her, we just knew. God was speaking clearly and obviously showing us that he has the best plans. And from there, it all unfolded. Months of prep work and paperwork, and finally we got to meet her. When we met Emily in person for the first time, it felt exactly like Olivia. Instant peace, instant connection, and like we had always known her. And honestly, every single day since then has felt like a literal gift. We wake up and we still can't believe we get to be her parents, and we get to walk through life with 2 daughters. Emily came home with us after months of visiting with her on April 9th. So we get double the hugs, double laughter, double joy, and 2 girls who are now instant best friends and the perfect sisters. It's been so much more beautiful than we ever expected, and we don't take a single day of it for granted. Every day we're praising God for his faithfulness. Ecclesiastes says he has made everything beautiful in its time. After everything we've walked through, we realize how easy it is to live on autopilot, just trying to get through each day in survival. But we don't want to simply survive as a family, we want to live with purpose. So when you go through hard stuff, it really has you reevaluate everything. What is our why? Why more children? Why adoption? Why keep going when the path has been marked by loss and uncertainty? So our why is this: because we believe Jesus is Lord over every part of our story, not just the easy parts, but the suffering, the waiting, and the redemption. And that in all of it, he is making us more like him and using our family however he chooses to shape it for his glory and for the good of others.
We want our family to live on mission, to love each other and people well, make space for others, serve faithfully, and use our story, even the painful parts, to point to the goodness and nearness of God. Through every loss, waiting season, and closed door, God wasn't only building our family, he was forming us, shaping our character, deepening our dependence, teaching us to trust in him when we could not see what he was doing. And our why ultimately isn't just desiring our calling, it's worship.
We won't be sharing Emily's story as it's hers to share, but I do have permission from her to share this. One of the combos we have had in our first week home as a new family was a conversation with Emily about grief. I was snuggling with her on the bed, and she was sad and exploring what she was feeling. She looked at me and said, "I think what I'm feeling is grief." And then she paused and asked in a worried voice if grief is bad. How many times have we as adults thought of grief as a negative feeling too, so naturally kids would think of it as a bad feeling as well? I explained that grief isn't bad, it just is. It's the natural response to love and loss. It means someone truly mattered and you love someone dearly and they are gone or absent. Feeling grief is healthy. We were created by God to feel deeply, and ever since that convo, when she feels grief, she will tell me and then follow up with, but it's healthy, like it's a fact. We can carry grief in different ways, and God is very much present in it with us, faithful and working. We as a family are happily entering into a new season of hope, renewal, and redemption, and also honoring the time and lessons and grief spent in the valley to get here. It is, after all, how Emily says, it is healthy to feel that grief.
Looking back, we can see that God's timing was perfect, even when ours wasn't. As Scripture says, God works all things together for good, not because everything is good, but because he is good and able to redeem all things. Ultimately, our story isn't about adoption or parenthood, but it's about the faithfulness of God. He has carried us through grief, met us in waiting, and shaped us through suffering, bringing beauty from what felt like only loss. And our hope is that everyone listening, whether in joy, grief, waiting, or uncertainty, would know that God is present in every season and faithful through all of it.
So today we celebrate not only motherhood, but a God who is with us in every season and every unique story. And we want every woman here to feel seen, valued, and celebrated. So please, there's bouquets at the front. Please make a bouquet for yourself. And I hope it reminds you of God's beauty, his creation, and the joy in motherhood as well. Thank you for letting us share.